Love a locking trim Strat. What the hell is it? Strat HRR something. I don't know. I don't want to say HHR. That's car. But so anyway, he's showing me this Yamaha 10-watt guitar, not guitar, amp, and I'm like, that is so freaking cool. This thing. Now that sound on my, if you heard it, is through my Princeton Chorus amp, which I love. I've had it for 25 years. I was able to get my sound that I've tried to obtain through this Fender Strat all these years within a matter of a couple minutes. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Unfortunately, Yamaha doesn't make a bigger amp that is like that. And I'm like, hello? I mean, Yamaha could take a big chunk of the guitar amplifier market if they just took this thing. Instead of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Honey, I Made a Big-Ass Guitar Amp. I mean, I am not kidding you. This thing, and then they have a brown sound one. And I didn't like it as much. It wasn't as bright. So I like I think it's beige. Or green. It's beige? I think it's beige. And then the brown sound one is green, like army green. And I'm like, I don't like it. I like the other one better. So anyway, take that for what it's worth. But that's another new gizmo that I thought was really, really cool. And, of course, if you want to watch internet television, nothing is better than a Roku, and that's where I watch Glenn Beck, not religiously, but I turned him on last night, and he started talking about, he was actually sitting like at an anchor desk like Saturday Night Live, and News Update or whatever with Chevy Chase or whoever the guy does it now, and does a great job. And, Glenn Beck was talking about some concerning things in Egypt and the Muslim Brotherhood and Christians being slaughtered in Egypt, churches being lit on fire, Bibles being burned. And actually, I have a video here that he said, I want you to share this with your friends, so that's what I'm going to do.
Really hard time hiring their new executive team because as they offer people their executive positions, it is made clear that all decisions will be made out of Qatar. Any major decision. Now, what's that mean? How much loyalty? How much is your loyalty to your country? How much is it worth? How much are your principles worth? Well, that's a question that I guess we should ask CNN anchor Soledad O'Brien, who sold out. Also, NBC anchor John Sigenthaler. Former CBS correspondent Joy Chen is now with Al Jazeera.
Yeah, he's talking about Al Jazeera. That's not the one. I wish it was a little more user-friendly here. Maybe this is it.
They are having a really hard time hiring their new executive team because as they offer people their executive positions, it is made clear that all decisions will be made out of Qatar. Any major decision.
It's the same video.
Nope.
All right. Well, okay. Where the heck is it? I thought for sure. Oh wow, really? That's really interesting. Maybe it's down further because it was last night. Freedom of speech. Maybe this is it. It's a commentary. No. Well, I'm sure glad you're prepared. Yeah, me too. Like, it's right there. You can play it for your friends. Uh-huh. Don't see it there. The bunny's gonna get it. Oh man, Con Air. I was just talking about that movie with my son. What a great movie. Ooh, wow. Oh, yeah, Ted Cruz renounces his Canadian citizenship. He was born in Canada. That might be a problem. Natural born. Oh, yeah, Dick Van Dyke was in a burning car, and I'm glad he's all right. Buck, okay. I don't know. I don't know. This was really good too, though, with Buck from theblaze.com. This was really interesting. Okay. It's a photo. There's no video. Here we go. Now, this is what I heard last night. So, take a listen to this.
I want to talk to Buck Sexton and bring Buck in. He is our national security advisor in New York City and has been on this bandwagon warning the American people that unlike anybody else will for some strange reason. Buck, you just got off the phone earlier today with one of our sources, a Coptic Christian priest in Egypt. Can you tell me what's happening?
Well, the short version, Glenn, is that it's worse than what anybody here who's just reading the newspapers or watching television is picking up. That the persecution against Christians is not only becoming pervasive with regard to the Muslim Brotherhood and its street supporters, but also with regard to the military turning a blind eye to a lot of it. And, you know, this is one of the unforeseen by the elites consequences of pulling the Mubarak era or bringing the Mubarak era to an end. That was suppressing this latent Islamism, which, Glenn, goes back for centuries in terms of its persecution of Christians and Jews in a very specific category, in an actually very specific version of Islamic jurisprudence.
Okay, explain that, because I got an email from a friend, and I asked that this be explained today, because a friend said, I've never heard of this. Do you know about this? Yes, it's very common, and one reason why you can't have Muslim domination of the world. Here's how they get along. Explain.
Well, it's a concept called the dhimmi. The dhimmi is an agreement. It actually means protection, and those who are dhimmis are the protected. But they're protected, Glenn, in sort of the sense of mafia protection money, meaning that they were a secondary class of citizen, and this stretches back to the very beginning, by the way, of the Islamic conquest, from the life of the Prophet Muhammad himself all the way up through the Ottoman Empire. If you were a non-Muslim, you fell under this separate legal category where you were essentially treated like livestock. They would keep you alive, but you had no real rights. If they wanted to kill you, they could. If they wanted to rape your women, if they wanted to put you in slavery, take your property, they could. And I could actually show you, if you want, some of the historical underpinnings of this, because what people have been told about... So this is one way to visualize it. Everyone always talks about the Roman Empire, but what people forget is the Roman Empire, all these areas here, and this is at its height. This would be 180 AD when Marcus Aurelius would have been the emperor. Now, fast forward a few hundred years. This empire dissolves. What happens all along here? These were Christian areas, Glenn. These areas all became Christian. And when we talk about the Coptic community in Egypt, it's one of the oldest Christian communities in the world. It was founded by the Apostle Mark down here in Alexandria. Alexandria was one of the patriarchates, the main patriarchates. We don't even think of these cities as being deeply Christian, but Constantinople, Antioch, Jerusalem, deeply Christian population there, as well as Jewish, and then coming down into Alexandria. These were Christian cities before the Islamic conquest. What happened? They were put under this status of dhimmitude, which essentially over time forced them to either accept Islam or live in this legal area where they could be, like I said, killed, treated as slavery. One of the most important things, Glenn, that Sharia instituted, and this had not been the case under Roman law previously, had not been the case in Christendom, was that they disarmed Jews and Christians. They wanted to make sure that they could not defend themselves, and in all of these areas when they were Christian, before the main Islamic conquests of the Arabs and then the Ottomans, They couldn't do anything except go to the central authority. They were essentially serfs on the land with pain of death hanging overhead all the time. That was the case for the Coptic Christians. That still is the case for the Coptic Christians in the absence of a Mubarak-like figure.
And what you do is you pay the leader, the Muslim leader, you pay a tax and say, I'm not a Muslim tax, right?
This goes to the very. That's absolutely. It's called the jizya. And this goes to the very heart of Islamic jurisprudence, again, from the life of the Prophet Muhammad, the hadiths, the stories about the life of the Prophet Muhammad, which with the Quran are what comprises Sharia, which is supposed to be the divinely inspired law, Glenn. There can be no deviation from it, even though there are 4 major schools that contradict each other. But the jizya had to be paid. If it was not paid, death was the punishment or enslavement. Whatever benefited the Muslim ruler at the time, he could make that call on his own. And there's also a concept called fay, F-A-Y, is how we transliterate it, and that is booty, essentially, meaning that everything that belongs in this world, all property, actually belongs to the ummah, the Islamic community, and therefore anyone outside of the Islamic community should have their property appropriated by the Islamic community to wage war. So between jizya and fay, you have these populations all throughout here. These were majority populations for hundreds of years, Christian populations, before the Islamic conquest starting in the 7th century. So when we think about these areas, we think about the history, they're always saying, oh, well, this is the land of Islam.
No,
these Christian communities, the Coptics being one of the most well-known, are there and have been there from pre-Islamic times, and they are on the verge of extermination.
Okay, so that's what I really want to get to, because we talked in, I think it was 2009 in Cairo, they were slaughtering all of the pigs. And I'm like, why is this a big deal? And I found out that the pigs, that was a very big Christian thing. This was a massive, massive slam on the Christians and a way to hurt them. And I thought, when we hit 2011, I thought, they're already doing this stuff. If you take out Mubarak, you're toast.
The pig slaughtering in 2009 was a complete sham. They said it was because of the fear of swine flu. There was not a single case of swine flu in Egypt. Glenn, I was in what's known as Garbage City, a Christian area, just a few weeks ago when I was in Cairo for the Blaze. I saw what's happening there. You have dire and unbelievable poverty there because this was how people were making their living. They were using pigs in essentially these trash dumps, these makeshift huge trash dumps, in order to deal with the garbage in Cairo. Oh, by the way, a little consequence of this is Cairo is dirtier than it has ever been. And it's because they killed all these pigs because they wanted to make sure the Christians know you are second class, you are not Muslims, you are not worthy of the same protections as the Islamic community.
All right, real quick, and I've talked to experts today. They don't agree with me that, just like they didn't in 2007 and 8, when I said if you have a sustained $120 per barrel, you are going to have real trouble. I think it was 140 then. I don't know what the number is actually, but they just don't think it's going to be a problem. We have the Suez Canal there. If Egypt falls apart, please explain what will happen to the price of oil, i.e. the price of every bit of grocery that you try to buy. It will shut down our economy. What are we looking at with the Suez Canal?
The conventional wisdom at this point about that is that no matter who's in charge, because the Suez is such a revenue source, they're allowed to keep going. However, when you have a situation where you have now up to 1,000 dead in the past week, you have violence spreading out across the region, you have a full-blown insurgency, really, in the Sinai, which, by the way, is right along the Suez. Anybody can play spoiler here. In the Sinai, they've already been attacking oil pipelines going back for years now, these Bedouin jihadist groups. Now, if the Muslim Brotherhood really wants to hurt whoever the new leadership is, whether it's military, some military democracy hybrid, they can attack a tanker in the Suez, Glenn. They can actually shut down the Suez themselves there, which would have catastrophic effects, not just on the price of oil in the short term, but also on the whole shipping safety and all of the insurance that's needed for that. Because people would say, oh my gosh, our ships are no longer safe going through here. And that's roughly 8 to 9% of global commerce in this one choke point. The only place you could think of that maybe has higher than that would be the Strait of Hormuz, which some people say is the reason we haven't bombed Iran back into the Stone Age so far. That's the truth of it.
Okay, will you do me a favor? I'd like to come back to you this week, and I would like you just to see, and maybe there's nothing here, But it strikes me that the Western Empire, if you will, the Roman Empire, collapses and is replaced with the Caliphate. And here we are again, the new Roman Empire, the new Western Empire is collapsing or could collapse, and it will be replaced again. Could you just look for the similarities on what happened then and what's happening now on our collapse and how things spread out of control?